Hey guys, Chung here. So the new Panasonic cinema camera will be called the BGH1. It sounds very similar to GH1 but with a B in front of it. But this camera now we do have some specs leaked out of and we can talk about them. However, looking at all the specs, we can kind of say this is like a GH5S in a cinema camera body with minor updates and also a lot of extra plug ports. The BGH1 will have a Micro Four Thirds mount with a Micro Four Thirds sensor. This will be the 10.28 megapixel sensor, same as the one inside of the GH5S, and also have the dual native ISO. And this will be able to record 4K up to 60p in 10-bit 422 internally to 2 SD card slots, and over the HDMI it will be able to record 10-bit RAW. And of course we can expect good low light and high ISO performance from this camera like the GH5S, and this camera will have picture profiles more similar to Vericams with the V-Log L and the Cinelike D2 and the V2, and this will be enabled to match the colors better with like the Vericams and also the Panasonic EVA1. And something that is quite interesting on the specs list is actually about the autofocus of this camera, because the autofocus of the BGH1 will have like a dedicated autofocus control, and it autofocus with a AI deep learning. So it's quite interesting if this autofocus is gonna be really good or actually not, because right now we can only speculate about it. But if it does a good autofocus, then hopefully in the future, like Panasonic cameras will have like much more improved autofocus in the video mode, because right now it's still a little bit lackluster on that side. For audio on the BGH1, we have a single 3.5mm jack on the camera body. However, we can expect on it a hot shoe mount where we can adapt a DMW XLR unit similar to the units that you can use on the GH5. And finally, we know what's under the big rubber cover on the back of the camera. It will have two BNC ports with like the gen lock and time code, and also a SDI port out. And it will also have somewhere on the body a USB Type-C for, of course, offloading footages, or maybe even like recording over to an SSD possibly. But also it will have like an Ethernet port for live streaming, and it will have a DC in for enabling to use a DC adapter. The batteries for the Panasonic BGH1 will be the same VBR batteries from Panasonic that is also used on the EVA1. And looking at all the specs, we can actually quite say that the BGH1 will be quite a nice B or a C camera next to your EVA1. With the release of the first image of the BGH1, there was also a message from a tester saying it wasn't that much of an interesting camera for him. And actually looking at the specs, it's kinda is like a kinda good camera and kinda not a good camera, because honestly the specs wise it's kind of worse in some way against the Blackmagic 4K and also the ZCam M4 or ZCam E2, and somewhere it's better than it's with like certain ports, of course, with like the SDI port, and also like yeah, unable to adapt like a proper XLR. But yeah, it's really going to be gone down to like which price it will have, because honestly, it needs to be more competitive with the price against the Blackmagic 4K and also the ZCam M4. But seeing it having SDI and a lot of possibilities for all the professional ports, it might be not that reasonably priced. So it's, yeah, really gonna be coming down to the price of this camera, because you could get like a Blackmagic 4K with internal RAW recording, or you can get the ZCam E2 with like 4K 160 frames per second and also having RAW recording. But yeah, overall it's kind of dependable of the price of this camera, and it feels like it should have been released much earlier, especially maybe instead of that they have released the GH5S, this should have been the camera that they should have released back then. So what do you think about the Panasonic BGH1? Please comment it here below. Also comment what price would you think would be reasonable for this camera. And if you really like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And also if you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button here below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.